Tyson Fury is a fantastic fighter. He may turn out to be the best heavyweight of this era. Many people believe he already is that. But everybody has their flaws. Everybody has their weaknesses. Everybody has negatives as well as positives. And with Tyson Fury, and to some extent his dad John, they tend to talk a lot of rubbish a lot of the time. And in this case, you got Tyson Fury responding to a BT interviewer who asked him whether Wilder is the most devastating puncher in boxing history, or was asked about Wilder being the most devastating puncher in boxing history and modern boxing history. Tyson Fury hit back by saying, "Incorrect. I am." He said, quote, "He was the biggest puncher in history and then I knocked him out. So that makes me the biggest puncher. I'm the biggest puncher. I'm the toughest puncher." End quote. Now, some people are going to look at this and say, it's just hype. And on one level, it is just hype, right? But the problem is, a lot of fans start to believe this stuff. I know, I'm sure most of you guys out there are not going to believe it, but there are going to be some people that do believe it. And they're going to look at some absurd logic, if you could even call that logic, like that from Tyson Fury, and say, yeah, he must be the biggest puncher now because he knocked out the biggest puncher. Well, whoever said that Deontay Wilder was the biggest puncher of all time? Who got him on a punch machine versus all the other biggest punchers in heavyweight history and actually measured if he could hit harder than all the other guys? It's people's opinions. And I think people got far too carried away with Deontay Wilder and his punching power. They created a myth. And look, he definitely hits very hard. And he is one of the hardest punchers I've seen. But to say that he's the hardest puncher, there's no possible way of knowing that. There's no possible way of really determining that. So to say it as if it's a statement of fact is just absurd. Yeah. Now, Tyson Fury beating Deontay Wilder, who's a tremendous puncher, by knockout, that doesn't automatically mean Tyson Fury's now a devastating puncher. How does that work? When Muhammad Ali knocked out George Foreman, did he suddenly become a bigger puncher than George Foreman? No. When Evander Holyfield knocked out Mike Tyson, did he suddenly become a bigger puncher than Tyson? No. When Muhammad Ali stopped Sonny Liston, did he suddenly become a bigger puncher than Sonny Liston? No, he didn't. I could go on. Buster Douglas, when he beat Mike Tyson, did that make him a bigger puncher than Tyson? No. So what Tyson Fury is saying here is just utter nonsense. You know, being a big puncher is great and all, but you might not be somebody who has great stamina. You might not be somebody who has a great chin. You might not be somebody who has a great defense. Okay, and because of all these things and many other different factors, you could wind up getting stopped by somebody who doesn't hit as hard as you. Is Andre Ward as big a puncher as Sergey Kovalev? No. Again, where's Tyson Fury going with this bizarre logic? You know, talking utter nonsense. So it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Tyson Fury basically acting like he has inherited Deontay Wilder's punching power after beating him. It doesn't work like that. And hopefully most boxing fans will realize this. Now, is Tyson Fury's punching power underrated? I would say it is. But again, people tend to misunderstand the term underrated the same way they misunderstand the term overrated. Because when I say somebody's overrated, I mean that in the literal sense. When I say somebody's overrated, I'm just saying they are more highly rated than they should be. I'm not saying they're rubbish, because this is how most people tend to misconstrue the word overrated. If you call someone overrated, you're saying they're rubbish. That's how they tend to view it. And that's how they tend to use it themselves. When they want to call somebody rubbish, they'll call them overrated. Yeah. Whereas I use it in the actual literal, proper, accurate sense that no, I'm not saying the person's rubbish. I'm just saying they're not quite as good as the majority of people, or perhaps the majority of their fans tend to think they are. They might still be fantastic. Yeah. I mean, for me, Floyd Mayweather was overrated by a lot of his fans, but he was still an all-time great and fantastic fighter. It's just that some fans go overboard, right? And so when they're going overboard, I can accurately turn around and say, well, he's overrated, right? Because they're making him out to be somebody that's completely invincible. This guy can walk on water and turn water into wine, all that kind of stuff they're saying about Floyd Mayweather. That's what led to my infamous Floyd is Jesus videos from back in the days on my old channel. I think they're still up. But yeah, so I use the term accurately, right, when I'm talking about overrated and underrated. And with Tyson Fury, when I say his punching power is underrated, I'm not saying he's a devastating knockout artist. I'm saying he's not feather-fisted. Clearly, right? I mean, he's scored plenty of knockouts in his career. And when he sits down on his shots, he's not going to tickle you when he hits you on the chin. It's going to be more than a tickle. The issue with Tyson Fury is that when he does sit down on punches against the more skillful counter punchers in the heavyweight division, I think he's going to come up against problems because of the fact that he isn't as sharp with those big power shots as, let's say, an Anthony Joshua, right? AJ, when he's throwing right hands, when he's throwing hooks, they're sharper, they're more accurate than what Tyson Fury throws. Tyson Fury is very good behind the jab. He's more fluid than AJ, moving around on the back foot and all that kind of stuff. But if you're talking about delivering power punches, you can't tell me that Tyson Fury's uppercut is as fast or sharp or well delivered as AJ's uppercut. It's not. Or his left hook. Or his straight right hand. Yeah? Tyson Fury does certain things better than AJ and vice versa, right? But like I say, the technique that Tyson Fury throws his power shots with, I think is going to leave him vulnerable. And I'm talking about when he's loading up. It's going to leave him vulnerable against the better counter punches in the division. And I think Tyson Fury knows that anyway. I think he's smart enough to realize that there are certain things other heavyweights do out there who are that are better than what he does. So yeah, that is what that is. But yeah, Tyson Fury's punching power, I reckon he can hurt most guys out there. But can he deliver those hurtful shots where he has to sit down on a punch and load up safely, whereby he's not getting tagged or he's not being made to miss and then countered? That's the question. Deontay Wilder has never been much of a counterpuncher, particularly on the back foot. I'm not saying he's never thrown a counter on the back foot, because he has, but generally speaking, Deontay Wilder's not that guy. Yeah. Deontay Wilder's a guy who likes to catch you off guard or catch you off balance rather than wait for you to throw a particular shot and then counter you and set up particular counters. That's not really Wilder's game. Wilder's game is actually very basic, or at least it has been up until this point. He basically just makes himself as awkward as possible, then waits for you to overreach, or he catches you off guard. You see the way he caught Dominic Breazeale, for example, off guard. That's what he does. And by off guard, I'm not saying he's hitting people when the referee called break or anything like that. No. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. He's just catching the opponent when they're having a lapse in concentration, when their left arm or left glove is a little bit further down than it should be. And that's how he knocked out Breazeale. I think they just called break and Breazeale hadn't reset his mind. He wasn't quite on it, and Deontay Wilder caught him before he could defend himself properly. The action had resumed. It wasn't an illegal punch or anything like that, but Breazeale was just a bit slow to get back in focus mode. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about everything I've talked about in this video.